Hey everyone, MrEdRollo here from my studio in Sydney. Welcome to Production Music Live. Today I'll be taking you through my latest release, Equanimity, where I almost exclusively use samples from the Deep Premium Sample Pack series to develop the main groove of this track. I'll also be taking you through the melodic elements and how I incorporate various analog gear into my workflow. If you have any questions along the way, or there's something I just didn't cover today, then drop a comment below and I'll do my best to answer them. So today we're going to take a look at my track Equanimity and how this track came to be, some of the production techniques, and a little bit of the secret sauce that went into this track. This track first started as a live jam on my YouTube channel. I posted a video about a year ago, I think. If you search MrEdRollo on YouTube, I'm sure you'll find it. It was a live jam and it really resonated with my audience and myself, and so I thought I'd put in the effort and the time and the dedication it takes to finish tracks and actually flesh this baby out and get it released. It was released on Springtube label earlier in the year, and if you want to go check that out, you can on Beatport, Spotify, all those good places. Let's just take a quick overview of the project here. You can see that I'm using Ableton Live. I'm pretty sure at the time of writing this track, I was using Ableton Live 11, which is what I'm currently on. We have 39 tracks here, so, you know, a medium project. It's nothing crazy, but there's enough stuff in here that it was important for me to stay on top of labeling things, color coding my tracks, making sure that the descriptions on the side here somewhat referenced what was actually going on inside these tracks. Let's have a listen to the track just so we get an idea of what we're listening to today. The classic long extended mix for those DJ transitions. Let's maybe jump forward a little bit into some slightly more interesting parts. So yeah, really nice kind of progressive sound there. And like I said before, the main groove for this track was built up almost entirely from the Deep Premium sample packs. I have Deep Premium volume 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I just kind of dipped in and out of those packs to build up essentially my entire groove. Let's actually just solo the entire drums here so we can have a listen to what's going on with the main groove. I kind of have this theory that like your main groove should make you want to write music. So if you hear that groove just by itself, then you're kind of inspired to, you know, pull out a synth or like start writing some melodies or something. So that's kind of my approach when writing a groove myself, is that I should be like really into it without any kind of sonic or melodic content yet. If my groove gets me in the groove, then I know I'm onto something good. So let's go up to the kick channel here. Probably the most important element of any dance track is your kick. Now you'll see that this kick is labeled the MrEdRollo only kick. That's because this kick is the only kick that I use. Many moons ago, I decided to spend some time actually building my own kick. I used 2 samples for this from the Deep Premium packs, and there's a transient kick here at the start, followed by a nice subby kick to kind of like punch through the mix and like smash you in the face. I was going through these packs earlier and I'm pretty sure that I used this kick for my second kick or my tail kick, because it's got this nice like clean like sine wave waveform here, a nice tail on it, and so I could shape it and like tighten it up if I needed to. Let's have a listen to this kick though. Yeah, so really nice transient there. It's got a really nice click to it, and then some nice thumpy low end. If we have a listen to this Deep Premium Volume 2, Kick 1, Deep number 018. Yeah, I mean, they're quite close. I'm not sure if this is the exact one, but you get the idea. So this kick sounds great. We've got a little bit of compression going on here just to give it a little bit more punch. We have a classic kind of slow attack on this kick to allow the transient to pass through. We're squashing the tail end a little bit, which is generally the loudest part of a kick. Then we have a little bit of EQ just to give it a little bit more snap in that high end. And then a bit more EQ again, just to boost up some of the low end, cut some of the super low end, that subby region that we just don't need. Going to get a lot more clarity in your mixes if you cut this stuff out. And then that sort of mid-range boxiness that we can sometimes get in kicks as well, just gives space for other elements, and generally is a frequency that just doesn't sound very good. Let's have a listen to this kick with and without the EQ. Makes a massive difference. All right, so if we move down to this tops group, you can see that I have basically all of my drums except my kick in a separate group. This is because I like to process all of my tops, you know, my toms, my shakers, snares, claps, all that stuff separately to my kick, so that my kick just stays super clean, and then I can compress the shit out of the tops of my drums, and it's not going to affect my kick in any way. I'm not going to lose any dynamics, but I've just got a bit more freedom with the group if I group my drums separately to my kick. So I hope that makes sense. Let's go through some of these tops though. Let's just have a listen to them first. All right, we've got quite a few shakers going on here. I've grouped the shakers together separately because we've got 3 tracks of shakers. Now the shakers have been panned around a little bit. We've got shaker number 1. Now I believe this is some MIDI, slightly different sounds. Let's have a listen to them. Let's have a listen with the kick. This is a really nice technique if we want to create this kind of like staggering effect and this like driving, kind of like builds momentum. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then on all of the E's and the R's, essentially our 16th notes, we can put another shaker sound to get this staggering effect. A little bit of reverb, a little bit of sidechain, a little bit of delay at some stage, some EQ. All right, let's move down to the next shaker. This looks like it's audio. Nice, so it's a shaker loop from Deep Premium Volume 5, the shaker number 3. Yeah, here's another loop as well. This one's not labeled. Oh, wait, it is. Here we go. Deep Premium Volume 5 again. And then we've got some panning going on, right? So we're creating that just a little bit of width, not too much. Okay, let's move on to the clap group here. So I've got 2 claps. There's actually a percussion top loop here. This is from Deep Premium Volume 4. Let's have a listen to this guy. Now I'm using a little technique here of actually enabling the transient envelope. So what this is doing is taking a look at all the transients in this audio file and then putting like a little bit of volume automation on each one of these, but we can adjust that. It's essentially like a decay, right, for our transients here. So if I bring this all the way up to 100, and we can hear how those tails of each one of these individual transients is just carrying all the way through, but then we can tighten that right up. Classic technique, works really well. Just good to know that once you have the audio sample, you can sort of manipulate it even further. All right, let's move down to the clap snare. Obviously, I felt like this clap sound in the percussion loop was not enough, so I've added like a clap and a snare, it looks like. Got like a nice little deep clap there. Ooh, and like a little hand clap. I didn't even realize that was in there. It's quite tasty. And the shakers, and the kick. All right, to really bring this groove home, we've got some hats here. So it actually sounds like the same hat, just staggered at different volumes here. 1 and 2 and 3. So we've got one hat which is playing a little bit softer than the other. So yeah, okay, so I've done volume differences in simpler. There was probably a simpler way to do that, but the first sample is playing at minus 36 dB, and the second one is just at minus 12. So we're getting that, again, we're getting that kind of like push-pull effect. So I have a TR-8 channel here. Now, what this is doing is actually is what I used originally. I've just kept the MIDI in the project, but you can see the channel's actually switched off. Here's the recording of the TR-8. So the TR-8, for those who don't know, is the Roland TR-8 rhythm performer. It's a drum machine, and it's actually this guy over here. Yeah, I won't pull this guy over, but let's have a quick listen to how it sounds. I'll just solo this. Let's bring up some elements. We have 808 samples in this guy, which I'm actually triggering, and we have various effects and things on here. So I've just got some MIDI, which I'm sending from my audio interface out to the TR-8 and then routing the audio back into live, and then I've recorded that audio here. Now, it looks like I've just recorded a little bit of percussion here. Let's have a listen to the recording. So we've got some toms in there, we've got some extra hi-hats, and I'm also utilizing the effects from the TR-8 too, which is quite nice. Let's mess around with some of those. It's a bit of a luxury item, but the TR-8 is just so much fun and just fantastic to just throw in the background of tunes. Gives it a nice little extra bit of flavor on top. So processing on the TR-8 recording, not a lot going on here. A little bit of saturation, a little bit of EQ. I've got some filter automation going on here, which I believe happens in the breakdown. All right, that's the TR-8. Let's move on to tom number 1. Let's have a listen to it. All right. Nothing too crazy going on here. Just adding a little bit of rhythm. All right, this is quite cool actually. This is like a tonal tom that I found. This is from Deep Premium Volume 2, Percussion 5, tonal number 2. Now this had quite a clear tone to it, and you can see I have a tuner here which I've used to pitch this around. Looks like I've detuned this a little bit just to get it into key. Let's have a listen to the tom though. So this is offering not only a rhythmical aspect, but also a melodic aspect. And let's just play all the drums. You can see I've experimented with some other ideas here. Let's have a listen to those. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. But again, right, we're adding some rhythmical content, but also some melodic content. All right, we're almost through our drums here. There's just a couple more elements. We've got a ride in here too. Let's have a listen to this guy. Pretty straightforward. Deep Premium Volume 4. Yeah, just a super nice ride sound. There's only just a little bit of EQ going on here. Again, with that push-pull, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and making that first sample a little bit softer and then the second sample a little bit louder. All right, something else I noticed in here that I have this melodic texture. For some reason, I've thrown this in my drums group, but I guess it's offering some rhythmical content also purely because of the way that I processed it. So it's just like a micro sample, right? That's just going round and round and round. Now with the processing, we just get a little bit more rhythmical content there. So mostly being added by the auto pan. We get that stuttering effect, which is quite nice. All right, that pretty much brings us to the end of the main groove. I have a full group here named leads. Now this is what I basically group all of my melodic content into, even though I have a few more things down here, which we'll get into in a minute. Let's start off with the bass here. I'm just using the Mini V3 for this. I used the little bass preset for this and then tweaked it a little bit. Notice in this track, the bass doesn't come in until after the main drop here, which is this section. Just playing octaves. Dun, 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 dun. And beefing that up with a little bit of saturation. We've got some sidechain on there. I'm also using this beautiful plugin from Waves, which I've just recently got, which I'm absolutely loving. All right, let's move on to the chords. It's like a Rhodesy type sound, a sound that I have bundled up for my own pack, which you can find on my website, MrEdRollo.com/shop. I released a pack of 10 tools recently, and this is one of the sounds. They're all Ableton Live devices, sounds and effects that will work with Ableton Live 11 Suite if you have that. This one is called Nice Chords. Yeah, beautiful sound, which I'm beefing up with a little bit of a sub filter here. We've also got some Valhalla shimmer. Oh my God, I love this plugin. It's fantastic. Just makes everything just sound beautiful. A little bit of EQ going on here as well, but nothing too serious. Let's have a listen to the actual chords of Equanimity though. Super sweet. Let's move on though to the Moog part. This sort of plays a little bit more of a background element, comes in sort of halfway through the tune here. Let's have a listen to it. Right, so I have the MIDI here, the Moog part for the MIDI, pretty straightforward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, over and over again. And again, like the TR-8, I'm sending this MIDI from my audio interface out to my Mother-32 here. This is a analog synthesizer module, and then sending the audio back into live where I've recorded it. Let's see if we can kind of recreate that sound here with the MIDI that we have. I use the tuner device to make sure I'm staying in key. I mean, it's just a beautiful synth. I could play with that all day. All right, let's move on to the Minilogue XD, or the pluck sound down here. This really steals the show. This is the very progressive sound that pretty much plays the entire way through the track. Let's take a look at the MIDI here so you can see what's going on here. We kind of have this like split chord. In the intro, it just stays the same, but as we move on here, the second half here, there's only one note different. So now let's see if we can actually recreate that sound as well. Let's move over to the Minilogue here, and if we can find the right patch. Oh, there it is. The secret sauce to this, or the magic that's really making this happen, is the filter delay. This is literally just the default setting from filter delay. If we head into our library here and we just grab filter delay, let's drop it on here. Oh, it looks like a couple of settings changed there, but like pretty basic stuff. I think I'm just changing the levels. Now, if we move down to where I actually recorded the audio, I would have recorded this dry, so with no effects, and then processed it after the fact. If we turn all these off just have a listen to the bare bones Minilogue sound. Let's have a listen to it. And let's add in the filter delay. It's like a totally new synth. Yeah, and so this is all from the live jam as well, right? So this is me tweaking that filter in and out, and then I've just kind of spliced up the sections to sort of make it suit this arrangement even better. Let's have a listen to it all together. If we move down here, I've got a vocal sample in here. Looks like it was from the Defected Records sample pack. Just split up into a simpler. So this is using the slicing mode within simpler. It's fantastic if you use this on the push because that's definitely one of the samples. Nice, huh? A little bit of multi-band compression, tuner to make sure that we're in tune, in key here. We can go over to the controls of Simpler. Looks like I've detuned it, just a couple of cents. A little bit of reverb, a little bit of filter automation, obviously, going on here to bring the sample in and to bring the sample out. A little bit of EQ and a little bit of bass mono going on there so we don't have too much stereo going on in the low end. And then I've just got some noise in here. So this is just some tape crackle, like vinyl noise, classic, cliche, probably overused trick, but it works. Just to add a little bit of texture, a little bit of grunge, a little bit of dirt. You can never go wrong with that. We have some whooshes and some swooshes. Then we have a sample in here, which if anyone can guess this, you win the prize. Let's have a listen.
We spend so much of our life walking around, looking, but never seeing to appreciate some of the beauty that's around us every day that we take for granted.
Yes, that is from the one and only Bob Ross. I think I just ripped this from YouTube. I hope I don't get in trouble for that, but everybody does it. Then we've got some pianos in here. So this is just the default grand piano sound. Then I've got some MIDI here, which is just playing straight notes, but I'm using this really cool technique to create like this effect like I'm a better player than I really am. And the way I'm doing that is by using an arpeggiator and using the note length. So these are two MIDI effects, which you can find up in the MIDI effects category. Let's have a listen to the chords just by themselves. So this sounds super nice, and it sounds like I played those chords, which I didn't. I just wrote the MIDI, but then I've used an arpeggiator and I've freed the rate. So it's not synced. The rate is free, meaning that I can bring the trigger of the arpeggiator down and I can adjust that freely. And what I have is I just have the rate down really, really low, and then the style is just to go through once. And it's on random. So it's just going to play the notes in any order, but it's only going to play them once. So an arpeggiator would typically keep going over and over again, but this is just going to play those chords once. But what we run into problems there is that the notes will play once, but really short. So I've utilized the note length here to increase the time, and I've just put the time to 10 seconds. So you can just adjust that rate time to your own taste, but without the arpeggiator, without the note effect, it's a little bit too dynamic. You just want a little bit more like kind of subtlety going on there. So this technique's very cool for doing that. And then I've just added a piano lead on top of that to kind of accompany everything. Let's actually just play the breakdown in its entirety because it's just a really beautiful section of the tune.
Much of our life walking around, looking, but never see. To appreciate some of the beauty that's around us every day that we take for granted.
There's drums coming back in up here. This is where the bass comes in for the first time. All the feels. All right, so just a couple more tracks to go here. We've got some tension strings. Okay, this is just a nice pad sound. Ethereal sounding, I suppose. This is just using Wavetable, I'm pretty sure. Just a preset. What's it called? Barely There pad. It's a nice way to put it. It's like barely there. It's kind of sitting in the background. Now what I did here is actually accompanied this with a vocal pad. So I did some like vocal work down here. Now I honestly can't remember if I recorded this from like an Ableton pack, like the voice box pack, or if I recorded this audio myself. I'm tempted to think that I actually used the vocal pack, the voice box pack. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Voice box, yeah. I'm pretty sure I used that pack to grab some vocal sounds and then I kind of mess around with them, recorded them a bunch of times, and then I used a couple of techniques like reversing them and then pitching them around to create some chords. I love to use this effect. I use this in a lot of my tracks, and then like the chord from this side is different to the chord to this side. This one is just the normal pitch. And then we have the second one, which is pitched down 5 semitones. And then this one's pitched down only 4 semitones. And then our final one here pitched down 9 semitones. So we're creating a chord, and together it just sounds amazing. I remember when I did this, and I do know now that I did not sing this myself, but I remember when I did do this and I added this to my tune, it just took it to just another level, and ended up just throwing them all over the place because I just loved it so much. Now, going back to the pad up here, what I think I did is grabbed one of these samples and then dropped it into a simpler here and then created an instrument out of it. So we can see the MIDI here. Pretty much similar to this tension strings. Oh. All right, well, there you have it, my run through of Equanimity. I really hope you got something out of this today. I hope you learned something. I hope I inspired you in some way. If you did have any questions, then please drop them in the comments below. I'm going to be diving in there and answering as many as I can. You can also join me over on my own channel at MrEdRollo. If you search that in YouTube, I'm sure you'll find me. Well, that's all from me today. So until next time, keep creating. Bye for now.